And I wanted to read an excerpt from your book, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase it a little bit. Before your your husband and you were married, and you had your child, you were on a trip to Paris when you first talked about the traditions that you would make for some future hypothetical child. And here's where I loved it.
Yeah.
You said, maybe at the stroke of midnight on the longest night of the year, we imagined we'd slip into their room, gently wake them by whispering into their little ears, "We have something wonderful, something epic and thrilling to tell you, something so large and magnificent that no human being can stop it. Starting tomorrow, the days will start getting longer again, and slowly the plants will bloom again. The sunshine will return. The summer is coming." I found that absolutely, that you went on to talk about going outside and looking at the stars and feasting on that which is nature. And I remember when I read that, I sent that to the producer Wes. And I said, "This is so powerful. You've got to get her on the show." Because I have 5 kids, and
Wow.
I wish that I would have done that. It was one of those moments where I went, "Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that?" I want to give my kids that same perspective. They're all older now. The oldest one is turning 27 soon. The youngest is going to be 16 in May. So they're all older, but they all have a love of science and nature and wonder, and so I may not have said that to them, but that philosophy
Yes.
is there for them. But your words, it's something that Amanda said earlier, that you speak in your own voice that has both your mom and your dad in it, but it's so beautiful and poignant and honest. And I just wanted to touch on that. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about making our own traditions for the holidays as secular people, but also as people who have our own traditions and history, which is something you touched on a lot in your book.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's so kind. And we now have now that theoretical child is a real 4.5-year-old in the next room, and there's another one. I don't know if you can see, but there's another one coming in February.
Congratulations!
Thank
Oh my goodness!
So now we're putting these ideas into practice, and so far so good. But you're right. I think that, it's really hard to start something from nothing. And like the winter solstice, I think is not starting something from nothing. I think all these holidays, Hanukkah and Christmas and Dongzi in China and, Yalda and like all of these holidays, countless others, are based on this. And I think that for those of us who feel, it doesn't have to be an either or thing. My ancestors are Jews, and I grew up with a lot of secularized versions of Jewish holidays. My husband's family is Christian, and they do like so many people this secular Christmas that is not, there's no, Jesus is not even mentioned, but we have all this iconography and all this, idea of lighting things up and making things joyful in the darkest, longest night of the year. It's so, or close to it. Our calendars have changed over the centuries, but the idea that this time of year, for those of us in the northern hemisphere, it's really, if you live far from the equator, it can be kind of bleak. And I just think that there is something really powerful and really beautiful about finding ways to make light in the dark. And so we do a secular Hanukkah, we do a secular Christmas with John's family, and we also do a winter solstice celebration. And, this idea that it requires no faith, but no matter what, starting the next day, the days are going to start getting longer. That is cause for celebration, and it makes you understand why so many people in so many disparate cultures felt so strongly that this was the time to, celebrate and make something special, make a break from the monotony of the, dark winter days. And I think that, for those of us who are not religious, there's ways to do, secular versions of the things that your ancestors have been doing for, the last few thousand years. Mm-hmm. Or there are ways to totally start fresh, or there are ways to try to imagine going back, with carrying our modern scientific understanding of how things work, go back even further than the last few thousand years. And, no matter what your background, no matter where your ancestors came from, there is a point at which, the most traditional, the most ancient approach to all of this is looking up at the night sky, trying to understand the patterns of the changes on this planet, and getting a grasp of when the days are getting longer and shorter, and when the seasons are changing, and feeling our connection to our place in this solar system on this planet. And I think that is the most traditional. Sometimes we feel this like heavy weight of obligation where you like don't want to be the first person in your family to like not do the cookies or whatever, whatever it is, the thing that your grandmother and your great grandmother put all this like effort into. And sometimes it's really beautiful to carry on those traditions, and I think that stuff is great. But I also think it's great when we want to do it. It's not great when we feel this like weight of obligation that is, where we're bound to these traditions and can't let them go, because, even the most traditional thing any of us are doing is brand new on the scale of human history, and we can, traditions, rituals, holidays have to mutate in order to survive, right? No one is doing exactly what their ancestors were doing 2,000 years ago or 6,000 years ago. Like, it's all new.